On this video, I've been reading through the book of Hebrews, reading the Greek, and looking at the grammar, grammatically. And we started out in 1:1 to 4 by noticing 7 things about Jesus Christ. In many parts, in many ways, God of old, having spoken to the fathers in the prophets, in these last days spoke to us in the Son, whom he placed heir of all things, through whom he made the ages or the world, who being the radiance or the effulgence of the glory and the exact stamp of his essence, bearing all things by his powerful word, having made a purification himself of sins, he sat down on the right hand of the majesty on high. 7 things about Jesus Christ are spoken of here at the very beginning, sort of like an introduction to everything. God has spoken now in Christ, having spoken variantly in the Hebrew scriptures. He is, as we've seen, uh, the Son. Psalm 2. Beniata ni hayom leticha. You are my son. This day have I begotten you. And he's heir of all things. You just ask of me, and I'll give you the Sha'almi Meni, Bet Nagoyim Nachalatecha. Ask of me, and I'll give you the nations for your inheritance, and the uttermost parts of the earth for your possession. So he's the Son by virtue of his resurrection, the King, and then he, through whom he's made the ages, he's made the world. All things were made by him. I think of John 1:3, Panta Dio tua genita. All things came into being by him. Without him came into being not one thing that has come into being. So he made the ages. He is the effulgence or the radiance of the glory and the exact stamp of his essence. If you've seen me, you've seen the Father. Jesus said he radiates the glory of God, and he's the exact stamp, the character, the exact stamp of his essence. And then he bears all things by his spoken word, by his powerful word. He just speaks, and things happen. He's the Memra. He is the Word. He's the Logos. He just speaks, and all things are carried along through time and history, and all things are held together. And then, having himself made a purification of sins in fulfillment of Yom Kippur, in the final redemption, having made a purification of sins, he sat down at the right hand of the Majesty on high. I'm reminded of Psalm 110, Shev lemini adashiro yavecha hadom leraglecha. The Lord said to me, sit at my right side till I make your enemies the footstool of your feet. By becoming so much better than the angels, inasmuch as he has inherited a more excellent name than them. Kekle uh, Kleranamikan is your perfect indicative active third person singular from Kleranameo. So by becoming so much better, comparative use here, and genomenos, by becoming, here we have the aorist participle middle, uh, nominative masculine singular from genomai. He has inherited a more excellent name than them. Tena God apen pate ton angelon, huias mu e se, ego semeran gegenekan. To which of the angels did he ever say, you are my son, today I have begotten you? The Hebrew, Beniata, ani hayom yeleticha, quoted from the Septuagint here. Uh, to which of the angels did he ever say that? You are my son. And this is applied, I believe, as a result of the resurrection. Christ has taken his sonship in fulfillment of Psalm 2 in its ultimate fulfillment, I believe. And again, I will be a father to him, and he will be a son to me. Here again in 2 Samuel chapter 7:14. He fulfills the Davidic covenant. I will be a father to him, and he will be a son to me. So these two passages are linked together by being a bin, by huios, by being a son. And we're looking at his kingly reign. He is the sovereign. He is the king on the throne. And this is something that was never said of the angels. To which of the angels did he ever say these words? Hatan de palan esagage tan protatakan estain oikumenein lege. Kai plaskune santosan auto pantes angeloi thou. Uh, and when again he brings the firstborn into the inhabited earth. Esagage is the subjunctive from esago, when again he brings his firstborn, third masculine singular, into the inhabited earth, oikamene, he says, kai plus kunesatosan, that all the angels of God worship him. A quote from the Septuagint here in verse 6 of Deuteronomy 32:43. And notice, proskunesatosan is from proskuneo. It is the aorist active imperative third person plural from proskuneo. Let all the angels of God worship him. The sovereign, when he brings the sovereign one into the world, the firstborn, whether we're talking about his incarnation or his second advent, the angels are called to worship him. So again, he is the Son, the resurrected, anointed Son, King, where angels are simply called to worship him when he brings his Son into the world, and probably at the incarnation or at the second coming. So he is greater than angels. And then we come to verse 7. Kai pras men tus angelus lege. And to which of the angels is he saying? Ha poion tus angelus autu pneumata, kai tus liturgus autu puras flaga. That is, the one who makes his angels winds, or like spirits or winds, and his messengers a flame of fire. Ha poion is from poieo. It's the present active participle nominative masculine singular from poieo. So the one who makes his messengers pneumata, like winds. And here's a quote from the Psalm 104, where angels are like wind. They're God's messengers, or they're like lightning, and his messengers a flame of fire. In other words, they simply are messengers that serve the Lord. But Christ is God himself in the second person of the Blessed Trinity. And so verse 8 continues, Pras de tan huion, but to the Son he says, Ha trana suhata as est tan iona tus iona, kai heraptas tes euthytetas kravdas tes basileasu. Your throne, O God, is forever and ever. The rod of equity is the rod of your kingdom. A gapesas dikaiasunen kai emisesas anamian diatuta ekrisin sehata as hata asu elian agaliasaos paratus metakusu. Because you have loved righteousness and you have hated lawlessness, on account of this, God, your God, has anointed you with the oil of gladness above your contemporaries. In other words, they're simply ministering spirits, but he's God on the throne. Your throne, O God. And he is quoting here from Psalm 45, which is a wedding psalm, but it's applied in the ultimate sense here to Jesus, who is God. He's not just a high official, a king, but he is God. And so the writer of Hebrews is saying the angels are simply ministering spirits. They're like God's servants, but he is God. And he's applying those very words to Jesus as divine, as Elohim, as God. So your throne, O God, is forever and ever. The rod of equity is the rod of your kingdom. You have loved righteousness. Agape sos is from agapao, aorist indicative active second person singular. You have loved righteousness and you have hated lawlessness. And missesos is the aorist indicative active second person singular from miseo, to hate. On account of this, God has anointed you, God your God. Eklesin again from kleo, aorist indicative active third person singular. So he's anointed you with the oil of gladness above your contemporaries. So the second argument is in verses 7 to 9, bringing together uh, Psalm 104 with Psalm 45. And what he's really saying to the angels, he simply says, uh, they are simply his servants, but Jesus is God. He, Christ, is God, and because he's loved righteousness and hated lawlessness, God has anointed him via, I believe, his resurrection as the king, as the sovereign. So he's following the argument here. We're following the argument. He's the Son, where they are simply worshiping him when he comes into the world. Secondly, they are simply spirits, ministering spirits like the wind or like lightning, where he is God. In the second person of the Trinity, the writer of Hebrews is writing, and he's showing that divinity, and he continues it in verse 10. Kai su kad arkas curia, tain gain, ethemeliosas, kai ergaton keronsu esin hoi uranoi, autoi apaluntai sude diamenes, kai pantes hos hematian palaiothesantai, kai Jose peribalayan henexes autus, hos hemation kai alagesantai, sudecha autas kai ta ete su u eklepsusin. So he continues to show how Jesus is God eternal. He is not only God, but being God, he is eternal. And now he quotes from another psalm, Psalm 102. You are of old, Lord. You laid the foundation of the earth. Ethemeleosas is themeleao, aorist indicative active second person singular, and the heavens are the works of your hands. They shall perish. Apaluntai is the future indicative middle third person plural from apalume, but you abide. Diamenes is your present indicative active second person singular from diameno, and all as a garment shall become old. Palaiothesantai is your future indicative passive third person plural from palaiao. And as a cloak, you shall roll them up. Chelixes is your future indicative active second person singular from chalisso. And notice the sigma becomes C here in the future. And as a garment they shall be changed. Alasso is the root future indicative passive third person plural from alasso. And you are, though, in your years, ek lapsusing, they shall not fail. This is from eklepo, future indicative active third person plural. So what he's doing here, after showing that he is the Son and the angels are to worship him, he's the resurrected divine Son. Secondly, angels are simply created beings, but he is God eternal. And he's quoting these Old Testament Psalms like Psalm 45 and Psalm 102 to drive that home, in contrast to angels in Psalm 104, who are just created beings. So notice Christ is so much greater than angels in that he is God eternal, where they are simply created beings. That's his argument, I believe.